Thoughtful Connections, a memory care podcast, aims to provide general information and insights about dementia and related topics. The content shared is not intended to be medical advice or a substitute for professional medical or clinical guidance. The purpose or goal of this podcast series is to help inform and educate family members considering memory care for a loved one. With us, as always, is Elizabeth Thompson, Arrow Senior Living Regional Director of Memory Care.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hello, Charlie.
How is the world treating you today?
Very well.
Well, how have I been treating you?
Like normal.
All right. Okay, that's a fair answer. Well, as many podcasts as we've done together, you have had plenty of warning.
Yes, I have.
And speaking of warning, today we're going to discuss the 10 early warning signs of dementia.
That is correct.
Okay, let's discuss the 10 warning signs of dementia. And please provide the examples of how they might appear in daily life. How does that sound?
That sounds great. I'm ready.
All right. So I'll give the warning signs and you give the examples. How's that?
Sure.
All right. So number 1, memory loss that disrupts daily life. What's an example of that?
Yes. So forgetting recent information. So maybe being able to recall things from a long time ago, but anything new, like what you had for lunch today, is harder for you to recall. Also forgetting important dates, getting lost in what would normally be a common place.
Okay. Good examples. Number 2, challenges in planning or solving problems.
Yes, this is a common one. Many people will talk about having difficulty following a recipe, balancing a checkbook, if people still do that, and then finding that they're having trouble sequencing things. So I actually, at one of the conferences I went to, I met a lady who was living with dementia, and she talked about how she put the gas thingy in her car to pump gas, but then forgot to hold it down and, click the little thing. So she just would miss a step. Another person talked about how they would put something in the oven, but then when they went to take it out, they forgot to grab hot pads. So missing steps.
And that could be dangerous.
Very.
Like on some of those.
Yeah.
So the third one is difficulty completing familiar tasks.
Again, this kind of goes back to that sequencing, having trouble missing steps in routine tasks that are normal. It could even be putting clothes from the washer to the dryer, like not knowing which goes where and that sort of thing. Putting toothpaste on a toothbrush. That's something that we take for granted, but it could be difficult for someone who is experiencing early signs of dementia.
So number 4 is confusion with time or place.
Yes, some people call this time travel. I've also heard it called timeline confusion, which I prefer timeline confusion. But people who are experiencing early signs of dementia, their circadian rhythms might not be working properly. And so getting confused on day and night, sleeping during the day, awake more at night, and forgetting where they are.
Okay. So number 5, trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships.
So vision changes in dementia are extremely common. A lot of times in the beginning, we notice spatial changes and judgment of how close or how far away something is, even hallucinations. Another thing that we see is when the floor may be the same exact level, but when it changes colors, it looks like it's a step down or a step up. Depth perception becomes an issue. So if you're seeing that you're having some all of a sudden strange vision changes, that would be a warning sign.
So maybe a black tile, for example, maybe look like a hole.
Yes, and it's a good thing that you said that, because one of the things that we do in our communities is we actually will place black rugs in front of our exit doors to prevent elopements.
I learned something today. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good use of black rugs. So new problems with words in speaking or writing is number 6.
Yes. Struggling to follow a conversation, having a hard time finding the right word, or confusing one word with another word, like maybe saying car instead of chair, or table instead of tablet. Sometimes we call that word salad, where you're mixing several words together, but they don't make sense. So those can also be warning signs.
Okay.
And that also can cause people to want to isolate and not withdraw, because if they can tell something's going on, they don't want anybody else to figure it out, so they'll just withdraw.
They don't want to know their family. They don't want their family members to know that they have an issue.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So misplacing things or losing the ability to retrace steps.
So I think we all will walk into a room and be like, wait, why did I come in here?
Oh, yes.
And we have to retrace our steps. I did it just the other day. Or I can't find my sunglasses and they're like on my head. That's normal. But when we are placing things in unusual places, I know one thing that I've seen is people will put clothing in a microwave instead of like a dryer or the washer. Blaming others, saying people have stolen my things. That's another common warning sign.
So number 8 on the 10 early warning signs is decreased or poor judgment.
Yes. I have a couple of stories there. So one of my family members has vascular dementia, and in the beginning started ordering socks off of Publishers Clearinghouse because they thought they had a better chance of winning. This is someone who doesn't need to win any money, but poor judgment. We had to take credit cards and things like that away from him because just making poor decisions. I mean, my mom had all these cases of socks showing up at the house. I mean, it just didn't make any sense. Another thing that he recently tried to do was give their house and land away. And so definitely poor judgment. And he's still pretty high functioning, but not being able to see that full picture. They've already got a will and there's lots of children and things are being divided a certain way, and he was just going to give it all away. So
that's definitely an example of poor judgment. Yes.
Yeah.
So number 9 is withdrawal from work or social activities.
Yeah, and again, I think that's when, early on in the disease process, something's changing and something's not right, and you're embarrassed, or you don't want to let others catch that something's going on. And so you isolate. The person who's always had Thanksgiving dinner at their house all of a sudden wants somebody else to do it because they're afraid that they're not going to be able to do it correctly or like they used to. They're seeing deficits.
Okay. And the final early warning sign we have down as far as the top 10 are changes in mood and personality.
And I think this is a tricky one because you can have changes in mood or personality and it not be related to dementia. So I think when we're talking about the 10 warning signs, it is important for you to look at the big picture, to seek a doctor, because even depression, anxiety, and even some illnesses, I know we talked earlier about some of the changes that you had when you had COVID so bad. And that was related to just being severely ill.
Just the brain fog.
Yeah. Can cause some of these things, but being confused, suspicious, again, going back to, everybody's stolen my toilet paper when really they just don't remember where they put it. But you can see some of these changes with people who are just depressed. And so it's not always memory related, but it is something to take into consideration as one of the warning signs.
Okay. All right. So we'll talk more about the warning signs here in a little bit, but I've got a couple of questions, and I'm gonna run them together for you.
Okay.
All right. If I need to repeat them, I will.
Okay.
All right, because I know you may be showing some of those warning signs and maybe can't remember. So what are some normal changes in the brain as people age, and how are they different from the signs of dementia?
Okay.
And how can caregivers or family members differentiate between normal forgetfulness and memory loss that signals dementia?
Okay. So one of a normal part of aging is occasionally forgetting names or appointments, but then you remember them later, kind of like we talked about retracing our steps, or, you're at the grocery store and you run into somebody and you're like, I cannot remember their name, but then you get home and you're like, oh yeah, that was so-and-so. That's normal aging. I hope so, because it happens to me all the time. But forgetting that recently learned information and not being able to recall it later, that's dementia. So if I learned that I learned about your boots today, if I can't recall that later on this evening, that's an issue. Making the occasional error in planning or solving problems, like making an error in balancing your checkbook, or you can't find your glasses or something like that, is part of normal aging. But when it's persistent and you're consistently having problem-solving issues that's significantly disrupting your life, then that's when we need to consider there may be something else going on, something bigger going on. Sometimes struggling to find the right word. I think we all do that. We all get tongue-tied. I hope so, because we do.
We do it almost every podcast.
All the time. But frequently, having issues where we can't even follow a conversation. That's what we want to really look at. Misplacing items, but being able to retrace your steps, that's normal. But not being able to retrace the steps, and sometimes accusing others or being paranoid, that's more of a dementia sign. So I think for caregivers, they need to be looking at all of these things, not just think, oh, he told one story over. That doesn't mean that they have dementia. You're looking at the big picture, lots of things, So
if someone notices, one or more of the 10 signs that we've discussed in themselves or in a loved one, what should they do next?
Go to the doctor. Go to the doctor and get checked out. It may not be dementia. It may be something else. It may be depression. It may be anxiety. It may be a lack of a vitamin, or your electrolytes are off. There's lots of things that it could be.
Could be a bad combination of medications.
Medications, yeah.
So it could be a lot of different things.
A lot of different things. But
okay. So what type of doctors or specialists are best equipped to evaluate the symptoms of dementia?
So a neurologist is going to be your best bet. Many times with insurance, they want you to see your primary doctor first, but I highly recommend requesting that appointment with a neurologist, because you're going to get a much more productive visit and evaluation.
It's just more thorough, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so if you go in looking for or thinking you have dementia, obviously you're going to tell the neurologist that, and that's what they'd be looking for.
And they have all different types of tests that they can run, not just the MRI and CAT scans, but the cognitive tests that they can do. They take a look at your whole health history, and even family that have possibly had dementia in their past, and what type. And
so is early diagnosis important, and what treatments or interventions are available?
Yes. Early diagnosis is very important, and it's something that a lot of people avoid because they just they're in denial.
They don't want to admit it.
They don't want to admit it. But if you are seeking wisdom from doctors early on, there are medications that can help slow the progression. But those medications don't work if you're later on in the disease process. So also an early diagnosis helps you be able to plan and prepare for your future.
Sure.
So
Elizabeth, are there lifestyle factors or habits that can reduce the risk of developing dementia?
Absolutely, especially if we're talking about like vascular dementia, which is a blood flow dementia. So, making sure that you are addressing any comorbidities, eating right, diet, exercise, social activity, all of that can make a huge impact. There have been cases of people who were diagnosed with vascular dementia and actually made substantial changes in their lifestyle habits. And they have greatly reduced, if not stopped, the progression of that type of dementia. So it does depend on the type of dementia, but yes.
But it has to be caught early.
Yes.
And so that brings me to my next question. Was it caught, or can it be caught like with a regular healthcare screening or a cognitive screening? Is that how it can be caught?
So yes and no. It depends on the type of dementia. Again, there's so many different types. We've got this umbrella of dementia, and then under that are so many different types. There's actually over 124 to, I heard today, 200 and something types of dementia.
I think they just find a new one every day, it sounds like.
Well, we're learning more and more. So yeah, it is always changing. Because I would say 10 years ago, there were like 80. And so, yeah, we're just learning more about the brain. But it never hurts to get screenings done or testing. The more you know, the better you can plan.
Sure.
So I definitely don't say don't do it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but again, it boils down to the quicker and the more you know, the better you can plan for your future.
Absolutely.
So here's one that could be a little bit touchy, and that is having conversation with your family members, your caregivers, that's exhibiting signs of dementia. What's your take on that?
It really depends on the person. It depends on the relationship. Sometimes the adult child and parent don't have the best relationship. That might not be the best person to have that discussion. I recommend it coming from someone that they really respect. I know personally, I love my mother dearly, but if I were to try and tell my mother something like that, she would be like, oh, whatever,
Who the hell do you think you are?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are you talking to me like that?
Right. But if she heard it from her granddaughter, who is 25, it would be a totally different story.
Really?
So it really depends on the person, and it depends on the relationship to the person that is wanting to have that conversation.
I would think also maybe their doctor.
Yep.
Or maybe they're if they're religious, maybe their pastor or their priest, or rabbi.
Yeah.
Might be a good one for it to come from as well. Maybe.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that conversation is handled with grace and empathy, and that it does not come across as an insult to that person.
Yeah, you're there to help them.
Yeah. Not
to insult them or to run them down.
Yeah.
Or for it to be negative. You want it to be a positive conversation.
Right. And I don't think that we have to jump in with the dementia word. I'm just seeing some changes in you, and I think that we should get them checked out because it may not be dementia.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I have concern.
Yeah.
I have empathy for you. I have sympathy and empathy. That's something that's important all the time.
Yes.
Not just in that conversation. So what are some resources that are available to family members to help them navigate this dementia diagnosis, if and when they do get it?
Our podcast.
What? What you talking about?
So, yes, I mean, first of all, I would definitely recommend our podcast. We are filming season 3 right now. We had already recorded
57 in the first 2 seasons, yeah.
In the first 2 seasons. And it's very easy to understand. And we've got different topics all related to dementia and memory changes, but help kind of direct you where you should go next. The Alzheimer's Association doesn't just focus on Alzheimer's disease anymore. They actually look at all different types of dementia. They have somebody that answers their phone 24/7, 365. They also share different support groups that they have all over the country, virtual and in person. We have our licensed clinical social worker, Sandy McGatha, who has a virtual support group every week that is amazing. And she exudes empathy. So I love Sandy. Also, dementia educations at our Arrow communities. We do the in-person education, and then we offer virtual education once a month. All of this is free. One of my favorite books is Creating Moments of Joy. It's a great read for families. The 36-Hour Day is another good one. And then there's a movie called Still Alice that is very good that I recommend, that helps you, and it's also a book, but helps you see from the perspective of the person living with dementia. And I think that's so important for caregivers to understand what it's like to be fine, and then all of a sudden these changes are happening.
Well, some great recommendations there for sure. So do you have any additional comments that you'd like to share about the 10 early warning signs of dementia?
I would just say don't hesitate to or be afraid to get things checked out. It never hurts to get things checked out. The more you know, knowledge is power, and you can better plan and prepare, and it may not even be dementia.
Oh, right. Well, thank you, Elizabeth, for the heads up on the warning signs of dementia.
Thanks for having me, Charlie.
And thank you all for sharing your time with us.
At Arrow Senior Living, we believe in the power of a chuckle, maintaining a childlike sense of wonder, and defending the dignity of others. Until next time, this is Charlie Johnson with Arrow's Thoughtful Connections, a memory care podcast, wishing you fond memories filled with moments of joy. And remember, if you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia.
You can find Thoughtful Connections, a memory care podcast, anywhere you listen to podcasts.